Hello, welcome back to Shadowrun, Hong Kong. We have hired ghouls and we've befriended vampires, and there is a running theme of hunger. It's not even all that subtle. There is a running theme of hunger to this storyline. Your workstation and mission computer. New messages, one unread message. Auntie Cheng and Josephine. Got it. Hey, Seattle, I think I can add a little context to that thing between Auntie and Josephine saying, you know, the thing that makes Auntie hit the sauce and talk revenge? This is a combo of stuff I heard and stuff I put together myself, so your mileage may vary. For years, the Yellow Lotus acted as tax collectors within the Walled City. Since the Walled City was built by Josephine Sang and the Yellow Lotus was run by Auntie Cheng, they must have had a working business relationship, for a while at least. But from what Nightjar told me, he was her favorite. You got that right? Auntie was known as a real up-and-comer back then. She was on the fast track to be the next Yellow Lotus 438. That's a big deal gig, Seattle. Money and power galore. Now you need to know that there were a lot of triads and corps doing business in the Walled City. All sorts of stuff. Sometimes they work together nicely, and sometimes people get bloody. The way I heard it, Auntie came up with some sort of grand plan to consolidate business in the Walled City. The power would be split between Yellow Lotus and Sang's company, and everyone else would get cut out. If the plan worked, Auntie would rise in the Lotus like nobody's business, and Josephine Sang would make long bank. There was a catch, though. In order for the plan to work, both women would need to jump through a lot of hoops. There'd be a street-level maneuvering and power plays on Auntie's side, and blackmail and negotiations on the corporate level from Josephine Sang. My info gets sketchy here. From what I've pieced together, Sang went behind Auntie's back and took her plan to her boss, a 438 named Wong Lun Fat. They cut kindly out of her own plan. Why'd Sang do that? My guess is that she saw Auntie as some sort of threat. People in the know say that Wong Lun Fat is weak and greedy. She can be manipulated if her palm remains well greased. Long story short, power was consolidated in the Walled City just like Auntie planned, only she didn't wind up getting any of it. Her climb up the Lotus Ladder came to an abrupt halt. She's still a straw sandal, less like she was before Sang backstabbed her, and now she's stuck in Haoi like a fly in amber. I'd be pissed too if it were me. Got it. Okay. I like Kufang. Kufang is my favorite. Is Kufang my favorite vampire? She's up there at this point. Okay. Uh, Bold message. Open the jobs directory. Claim payment. Here we go. Message pops up. Good work out there, kid. Here's the money promised you, Dr. Shane. Oh, good. Money to replace all the medical stuff we spent on that job. Ow, Kufang, you're adorable, but ow. Okay, no, I don't need to read. Okay. Shadowland BBS, pay data. We're going to post this. Data will be automatically sold to the highest bidder. Both parties will remain anonymous throughout transaction. Posting successful. Posting will remain active for 2 days, which means we won't see. Let's look at the BBS. Looking for Decker. Looking for experienced Decker for a discreet milk run on a low-level corporate lab. Potential for longer-term arrangement. We're a team that's been together for years, running your basic heists and the occasional transport gig. We've got a reliable fixer and a long list of happy clients. You must not take experimental stims during runs. You must have a good sense of humor. This does not bode well for Amazon. Weren't you just looking for a Decker a little while back? I saw your ad, but I was wrapping up a one-time run with an old partner who's moved away. I'd be interested in meeting. Isn't Muffin Top Ninja your fizz ad? Did someone call my name? Hey, MTN, long time no beer. We gotta catch up, Sensei. Bring me on as your Decker. I guess the kid who answered your last ad didn't work out. That's an understatement. I think we can count on you not to consume any drugs during runs. Most specifically, drugs that were part of the payload. Fatal experimental drugs that were part of the payload. Ouch. That's not even a rookie error. It's just lack of common sense. A real shame that. Anyway, glad you're on board, Runs. We're not going to have a problem with you. Aw, Amazoom, what did you do? Oh, I know what you did, but why? Want to trade eyes? We'll take anything. I acquired a huge supply of cutting-edge cybernetic eyes. My fence did a runner, so I've got eyes up to my eyeballs, as it were. Make me an offer. They've got the whole 9 yards. 2010 vision, camera, low light, thermographic modes. One size fits all, sold in pairs, box set. Colors, brown, blue, violet, hazel, green, flecked with gold, chrome, and you've got to install them yourself. Trade you a Ranger Arms SM3, comes with a matching briefcase. Deal, message me. Can I swap you my old cyber eyes for a new set? Seriously, anything but that. Can I buy a blue one and a brown one? No, but you can buy 2 pairs. Sheesh. Uncle Say's House of Pork. There's no Poetry Slam anymore. Aw. If anybody ever has the hankering to go to Uncle Say's House of Pork in Taio, I can only say one thing. For the love of all that's holy, don't. I haven't been able to leave my house in 2 days. The only reason I can even post here is because of the RAS override on my deck. What did you eat? Maybe you were just unlucky, Sir Yum Yum Cha. All I had were some shumai and ribs. That's pretty basic. Hard to mess up. Unlucky is when I get a bad orange at the market. This isn't unlucky. This is something else. This is like some kind of vile gastrointestinal sorcery. My God, I only ate there once. Once. I still have nightmares. It felt like I'd eaten a wasp nest, if the wasps were made of rusty razors, and also on fire. I thought I was being clever by getting the pulled pork sandwich in it when I ate there. Nope. Aside from basically being a pile of congealed sludge and the bread being moldy, it was a week before I could hold down anything more solid than congee. What are you all? A bunch of children? Yeah, the kitchen is dirty, but I've eaten there dozens of times and not once gotten sick. Grow up and learn to eat adult food. Wait a second. Aren't you the person who was raving about that food cart to the corner of Kimberly and Observatory? You told me to get the yuzu glazed horse tripe? Yeah, how'd you like it? Pretty good, huh? If by good you mean the consistency of tar and old tires, yes. The tripe must have been a week or more old. I'm pretty sure I smelled rot once the initial citrus blast wore off. Take note, this user's advice on food is not to be trusted. Oh, God. Reading that actually got me to push past the RAS override. Now my deck is covered in vomit. Thanks, guys. I mean it. Nothing I love more than being sick and disgusting. I'm going to say that that person giving advice was probably a rat shaman. If I remember correctly, they have abilities to eat food that otherwise would be horrible. Walled City embezzlement history. I'm uploading another Walled City report. This one old from just after they built it. I ended up digging into the history of the place. It's just archival plain text. Isabel. Isabel is posting to Shadowrun. It's nice. Consolidated Press Hong Kong desk. Sang Mechanical Services Sang was again accused in joint lawsuit headed by Wuxing Incorporated of embezzling hundreds of millions of new yen during the construction of the Walled City low-income housing project. The plaintiffs filed an official complaint on Monday stating the construction contractors had been heavily pressured by Sang to use cheap construction techniques while kickbacks, graft, and misrouting of funds caused several hundred million new yen to vanish. Sang's legal team strenuously objected to the accusations, citing lack of proof and the corporation's own damaged fortunes. Legal team spokesman Li Qishan had this to say: "The Walled City contract was a disaster for my client. The project was sabotaged at every turn by union activists and competing corporations. TMS struggled heroically to complete the project despite this interference. These parties have now added insult to injury by fabricating charges of malfeasance based on the very obstacles which they themselves created. This has truly become the theater of the absurd." Is it true? According to Consolidated Press financial analyst Gertrude Schoen, it seems unlikely. Sang has struggled financially since the Walled City project. Sang stock, ticker symbol TMQ, Hong Kong and Tokyo exchanges, is trading at around 40% of its peak. which it reached just after receiving the walled city contract 4 years ago. Although investigators have indicated that there is evidence of possible misconduct, no misappropriated funds have been found, and CEO Josephine Sang recently sold her Victoria Peak estate, citing financial difficulties. If TMS or the Sang family have benefited from stolen walled city funds, they're not showing it. Ms. Sang could not be reached for comment. I always thought that Sang rocketed a success at the back of the walled city. They sure trumpet that in their PR. Yep, it's a brilliant piece of historic revisionism. The walled city was a huge loss of face at the time, but somehow they've rebranded the whole fiasco over the last couple decades. Maybe their underbidding made them seem like a real sucker and brought in the contracts. Isabel, I find the fact you posted a financial article to be charming, White Prism. White Prism, did you just hit on ISO? Amanita's going to skin you. No, that's just WP. He's incapable of flirting. Would you date a woman named Amanita and then try to charm someone else on the BBS? WP is just an aggro mintat with a poor social filter. You two must have an interesting relationship. Let's just say we radically complement each other. Okay. That's interesting. Inbox. Oh, I've already done the... Okay, open the jobs. Do we have any pending? No. Okay, back to root. Walk away. And I'm not running a timer. Rather than tab out, I'm going to say that was... I'm going to tab out. See you in a moment. Yeah, I would have guessed that to be about 6 minutes, but it was actually 11, so here we go. Okay. That said... Where to go first? Let's head downstairs. Neither of these two were on the run before, so can't get any commentary from them on that. Please, my friend, not right now. We really must ready ourselves for the run on Ares Asia Holdings. I cannot and will not rest until my research has been recovered, and I'm afraid you will find me a poor conversationalist until my goals have been achieved. Okay, cool. I'm not looking forward to doing that one yet, because that one's going to require a lot of ability that I don't have yet. The cabin is silent aside from the occasional swish of air as Gaichu steps through sword forms. He holds each stance for a few seconds, practicing a given swing for a few times before switching to the next. Hello, Noel. A single bead of sweat rolls down Gaichu's temple as he holds his position. After a few moments, he shifts to a relaxed stance, starting the form again. Pardon me for continuing my exercises. I feel that I have been letting them slip of late. You're worried you're getting rusty. No, that's not quite it. Rather, I wish to learn to bring my enhanced strength and speed to bear. In order to do so, I must ensure that my blindness does not hinder me. Perfection is a journey, not a destination. Gaichu lifts his sword, offering it edge first toward you. Do you see that edge? Forged by one of the finest swordsmiths in modern Japan? Diamond-coated edge, capable of cutting even the most hardened ceramic armors. Well, what good is a sharpened edge without the precision to apply it? When I was still a man, I could have cut a single pea in half with my eyes closed. Oddly, after becoming blind, I cannot replicate this feat. Running the back of a claw along the blade's surface, Gaichu smiles thinly. I think soon I will be able to perform this feat again. I simply have to train my body to ignore the senses that it no longer has, and pay attention to the new ones. Now, what is it that you would like to discuss? Any thoughts about the last run? You're going to tell me I wasn't on it. Has been difficult learning to fight while blind. It is not the easiest thing I've attempted, but neither is it the hardest. Placing his sword off to one side, Gaichu turns to face you. Emptiness is form is one of the great lessons of the Hagakure. Train sufficiently in both swordsmanship and obedience will come instinctively. That is the closest to perfection a man can obtain. Does that mean in an imperfect world you would have killed yourself when you got infected? If an order should be unjust or foolish, it should not be followed. To waste a skilled warrior as they would have by killing me, it is unacceptable. Obedience without thought is to be cultivated, but so is the moral fortitude to know when to disagree. That's one of those paradoxes. You run into them a lot with philosophies and things. The whole thing about to achieve enlightenment, you have to forego all desire, and that includes the desire to be enlightened. if your only reason you're trying to be good is because you want to be good or because you want to have go to heaven, are you really being good or are you being selfish? There's a lot of these paradoxes that are in there. Life is not simple. Oh, I just noticed the caps to your ears in this portrait. I never noticed that before. That's a cool bit of jewelry there. When I was new to the unit, I thought that to be a good samurai was the ultimate goal, that to serve justly with dedication was the greatest honor a warrior could have. We were all young and foolish once, I suppose. There's probably a place for that kind of obedience somewhere. Certainly, those that join the Red Samurai are universally the sort to seek a rigid hierarchy to live within. If I had not become infected, I never would have questioned it. As it was, I still did not question it until my unit ambushed me in Fukuoka. We were taught that we were superior to everyone, that since we were pure humans and Japanese, we would always win. I believe that most never questioned the validity of this claim, even when confronted with direct evidence to the contrary. Tell me about when your old unit ambushed you. Very well. Gaichu draws his nails over his scalp, sighing. My time in Fukuoka was intense. Since leaving Kaihanshin, I had been careful to stay out of sight by moving on foot or on the back of automated delivery vans. I was running out of food, however, and needed to be in a city for that. Fukuoka was just big enough to get lost in, but not so large that ghoul sighting would go unnoticed. I hid in an abandoned building, could go unnoticed. I hid in an abandoned building and storm drainage systems, and for 2 weeks I managed to stay hidden. The strain of having to constantly move was wearing on me, however. I made a mistake. I had to get out of Japan, but all my contacts in Fukuoka had come up empty-handed when I asked for a way to China. I was running low on money, and I could feel the team catching up with me. A contact of mine in Kumamoto owed me a favor and arranged passage for me if I could reach the city in 48 hours. Gaichu closes his eyes, resting his face in one palm. If I had taken my time, I could have made it to Kumamoto without incident, but I let caution slip when I got his email. I thought that if I disguised myself, I could take the train there, get out before my unit got any closer to finding me. I still don't know how they found me, magical tracking perhaps, or simply a well-developed spy network. Regardless, they found me. They're waiting for me at Hakata Station, and get your hand away from the buttons. It was an ambush. That's a very public place for an ambush. It is. I suspect the orders were clear, however. Do whatever it takes to kill me. Civilians expendable. For units like the Red Samurai, ordinary laws do not apply. The mission's success is the only concern. I had taken steps to disguise myself as best I could, relying on the sheer number of people to conceal my presence. I suspected that the team might attack while I was in public, but I did not realize just how expendable the civilians were. When they blew the C4 charges over the station's western entrance just to box me in, I realized how much I had underestimated them. I assumed that a train had been derailed, honestly, but then I smelled the telltale acrid vapor of explosives. Gaichu wrinkles his nose at the memory. Once you smell it, you never forget. The plastic explosives that we used has a particularly sharp odor, like old cheese, something to do with olfactory taggant added to help track it if it is stolen. Oh. So, yeah, it's a deliberate odor added to it. I remember stumbling through the dust and debris, trying to find a way to the rail platforms. They attacked from all sides, using the confusion to strike at once. I could hear Ishida and Takagawa behind me. Aomori and Sasaki charged out of an access corridor just ahead of where I had been standing. Sasaki threw a firewall down behind me, cutting off retreat while Aomori started firing. Sounds like you didn't have much choice but to defend yourself. That is so. Training took over. I knew I had to survive, and I was not thinking of anything but survival, so I charged Sasaki and Aomori. They were only 15 meters away from me. The only advantage I had was that they were as blinded by the dust as I was, but I could still hear and smell them. Sasaki threw a lightning bolt at me, but I managed to roll under it. As I came up, Aomori's light machine gun was swiveling down. I felt time stretch out as I stared down the barrel. I caught Aomori in the throat with the tip of my sword. It was a maneuver I'd practiced hundreds of times before. There was no resistance as I cut through his trachea, and he fell as I rolled to the side. I could hear him choking for breath as he dropped. Gaichu exhales a humorous laugh and shakes his head. It is strange to think how clear that memory is even now. When the adrenaline's pumping, you form memories with more clarity. Certainly that is true, but I remember that strike so clearly for an entirely different reason. It was in that strike that I realized who I truly was. What did it mean that I, an infected monster that was less than a beast, could still defeat the finest soldiers in the world? Red Samurai Doctrine taught Aomori and the others not to fear me, and this overconfidence would be their death. I realized I had progressed beyond their ability to understand. My sword was as accurate as ever, but they could not account for it due to ideological blindness. That's the danger of letting ideology overrule. You think becoming a ghoul made you a better warrior? It's going to be no. Can you deny it? I could fight as well as when I was a man, but with eyes that had been opened to the hypocrisy of what Rinraku taught us. They taught us the lessons that made us useful tools. They did not want independent soldiers, but obedient ones. Ah, he's not crediting the ghoul powers. He's because you can get equivalent abilities from cyberware, to be honest. He's crediting the unveiling of the hypocrisy. Sasaki was the next to fall. As I turned away from Aomori, I realized she must have seen me strike him. Her eyes were wide, and I could feel her fear and anger as she tried to summon another spell. How do you know her eyes were wide? You're blind. Oh, well, artistic rendition, I suppose. She seemed caught between healing Aomori and attacking me. Kaichu taps himself on the forehead just above his right eye. It was there, on Sasaki, a downward stroke from a Jodan stance. She had hesitated just as Aomori had. I felt the breath go out of her like someone had deflated a tire. She just slid down into a pile. I think she was trying to ask me how when I ran. What about Ishida and Takagawa? My goal was survival, not victory. Takagawa was too far away, and I did not see Ishida. I only smelled him, so I ran. The trains had been shut down due to the explosion, but as long as I could get out of Hakata Station, I knew I could escape. They did not follow me out into the city proper. From what I heard via the Matrix, the event was reported as a terrorist attack that was thwarted by brave Rinraku soldiers. Gaichu snorts, lips curling downward. Brave, foolish soldiers. What does perfecting yourself mean to you anyway? I do not know. I am certain that sounds like an invasion, but it is not. There is no roadmap for being a ghoul who is also a freelance killer. I only know that my instincts are stronger now than they were when I was an ordinary man. Because of this, I must learn to make my own way in this world. There is no older teaching for me to reach for. Gaichu suddenly cocks his head. Is this why you're concerned about my history with the Red Samurai? I just want to make sure no one comes gunning for us while our attention is elsewhere. I want you to make the most of your new life. Gaichu blinked several times, surprise evident. That is remarkably kind of you, Noel. Were this a year or more ago, I would not believe you. After having seen how you handle the Wampoans, however, I do. I am no longer simply a man. This is a fact of my life. I am beyond that. I do not know if I am better for it, but I know that I am different for it. The fact that I am different, however, cannot be denied. Okay, I love this wording. As someone who English is my stock in trade as an English teacher, and I mean, I teach elementary school, so it's not like high-end university studying the language and all that, but I love the English language as with all its foibles. There are things I wish I could change about it, like having an actually appropriate alphabet would be nice, and consistent spelling rules would be nice. But anyway, I love this wording. I mean, I am beyond being a man is not the same thing as I'm he says I'm beyond being a man, but he doesn't say I'm better than it. He says he doesn't know if he's better. Beyond is different meaning. We always take the beyond human as being when someone says they're beyond X, the assumption is almost always that they are better. But this wonderfully crafted paragraph does not do that. This wonderfully crafted paragraph here just says that you've moved from being a man to being something else, which means you are no longer, you've gone past being a man, which means you are beyond it. It's not necessarily good, it's not necessarily bad, it doesn't make you better or worse, it's just different. Oh, it's such a beautifully designed, Such a beautiful statement. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. And yes, you get to hear me geeking out about English. Ha 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 ha. Okay, on to the next video because my timer did go off during all that. I'll see you in the next bit. We'll continue with between run maintenance. See you then.